Puja. Puja. Yashodananda Vajrajana Iraha Yamuna Tira Jaya Jaya Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Radha 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 Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees of Sri Sri Radha Damodar. Welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Science of God, chapter number 5, Prahlad Maharaj, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu, text 52. Dharmam artham cha kamam cha nitaram chanupurvashaha paradayo chaturajan pashritavanataya cha. Dharmam artham cha kamam cha nitaram chanupurvashaha paradaya chaturajan Pashritavanataya cha. Would anyone online like to try?
Dharmam artam chakamam cha nitaram chanupurvashaha paradayo chaturajan pashritavanataya cha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else?
Dharmam artham chakamam cha nitaram cha nupurvashaha praradaya chaturajan prasritavanataya cha.
Thank you, Ma. Anyone else? Dharmam, mundane occupational duty. Artham, economic development. Cha and Kamam, sense gratification. Cha and Nitaram, always. Cha and Anupurvashaha, according to order or from the beginning to the end. Praradaya, unto Prahlad Maharaj. Uchatuhu, they spoke. Rajan, O king. Pashrita, who was humble. Avanataya, and submissive. Cha, also. Translation. Thereafter, Shanda and Amarka systematically and unceasingly taught Prahlad Maharaj, who was very submissive and humble, about mundane religion, economic development, and sense gratification. Purport. There are four processes for human society: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, and they culminate in liberation. Human society must follow a process of religion to advance, and on the basis of religion, one should try to develop his economic condition so that he can fulfill his needs for sense gratification according to the religious rules and regulations. Then liberation from material bondage will be easier to attain. That is the Vedic process. When one is above the stages of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, one becomes a devotee. He is then on the platform from which he is guaranteed not to fall again to material existence. Yet gatva na nivartante. As advised in Bhagavad Gita, if one transcends these four processes and is actually liberated, one engages in devotional service. Then he is guaranteed not to fall in material existence again. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitanina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharana Vishesha Srimad Vastutyati Shatarani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Narayana Namaskritam Nagam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutire Nashta Praeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seva Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Dharmam Artham Cha Kamam Cha Nitaram Chanu Purvashaha Paradayo Chaturajan Pashrit cha. Thereafter, Shanda and Amarka systematically and unceasingly taught Prahlad Maharaj, who was very submissive and humble, about mundane religion, economic development, and sense gratification. So here in this very important episode of existence, discussing how Prahlad Maharaj is one of the 10 Mahajans, and he demonstrates how to actually achieve the summum bonum, the 10 subject matters in the Bhagavatam. And attainment of the summum bonum is how to take complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prahlad Maharaj is a teacher, a great teacher of that. And as this great drama is unfolding, what's happened here is that his father, Hiranyakashipu, has basically given up. He can see that all his attempts have failed in trying to kill his son. And his conclusion is that his son actually has greater mystic power than him. And so here in the purport, and so basically the strategy has been that what Shanda and Amarka proposed to their master is that, well, he's just a little boy and we'll just leverage the material modes of nature. So through repeated exposure to the content that we want him to assimilate, which is, in this case, just Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, but in a demoniac way, we'll just repeatedly expose him to this, and over time, it'll actually take effect. So because everybody is under the grip of the material modes of nature, Prahlad Maharaj, even though he has demonstrated more mystic power than you, my lord, they were basically addressing their master, but who can actually exhibit more mystic power that exceed the limits of the three modes of material nature? So we'll just leverage it. We'll just leverage this power, and in this way, just through repeated exposure and indoctrination, basically, and as he grows, forgetfulness will set in, and what will be prominent is what we have exposed them to, which is this curriculum of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha in a demoniac way. So this is the current strategy that they're employing. However, Prahlad Maharaj is free from the three modes of material nature. That's why it will not work. Krishna, he explains this and Prabhupada cites this in the purport. Yad Gatwana Nivartante. So this is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, the yoga of the Supreme Person. So because Prahlad Maharaj is in complete union with his master, he's actually exhibiting the same level of mystic power as Krishna. So the demons, as Prabhupada in previous verses in this chapter cited, this isn't the first time that the demons have tried to kill Vishnu, but somehow they can never catch him, just like Kalyavana, who was running after Krishna, and Krishna was got the famous name was Ranchor or Ranachor. And Kalyavana was trying to always to actually catch him. And it seems like he was always close enough, but never in reach, So in the same way, it seems to the demons that Prahlad Maharaj's body is right there. We can strike it with tridents, can try to get it trampled with the elephants, can throw it down a cliff. So it looked to them like they can actually destroy this body. But the mystic power that Prahlad Maharaj exhibited was on the same level as Ranachor, who ran away from Kalyavana. Could never quite catch him. And Prabhupada, and he explains Krishna why that is so. So Natat Basayate Suryo Nashan Shankona Pavakaha Yadgatva Nanivartante Tadhama Paramamama. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So why did Krishna tell this to Arjuna? Well, it's in relation to a question, series of 3 questions actually. So Arjuna asks in the text 21 of chapter 14, in the previous chapter, "Oh my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these 3 modes? What is his behavior and how does he transcend the modes of nature?" So Arjuna here is asking how one transcends the 3 modes of material nature. How does he do it and what is his behavior? And we have seen Prahlad Maharaj, through his constant meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his Lord, he showed these symptoms of being transcendental to the modes of nature. However, the demons, always being bewildered by the energy of their enemy, they don't see that. They don't actually see that he's completely transcended the modes. And so their current strategy of trying to indoctrinate Prahlad Maharaj and thinking that Prahlad Maharaj is subject to time like everybody else. So when his body grows, he will forget, devotional service. Because they are deluded, then they think, oh, this new strategy is better than our previous strategy. We try to kill him, but actually let's just try to kill the spirit of devotional service through the instruments of our enemy, which is time and the 3 modes of nature. However, Prahlad Maharaj, having achieved the yoga of the Supreme Person, is not controlled by time and is not controlled by Trigunamai. Just as Vishnu himself, he is the master of Kala. Indeed, he is time itself, as he tells Arjuna. And he's a controller of the 3 modes of material nature. So let's see how Prahlad Maharaj has actually transcended these modes. What are the symptoms that he actually exhibited leading up to this point in this amazing episode of transcendence? So Krishna, he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature." So this, in a nutshell, is Prahlad Maharaj. So we see how he's not, the demons are in darkness. He's not hateful towards his the family that he was born into. He's not hateful of his father. He's not even hateful of his friends, his young demoniac friends. And he actually made them devotees. He who does not hate illumination, attachment, delusion when they are present. It's unwavering and undisturbed. Right? So Prahlad Maharaj, seeing that actually this attempt of trying to kill him, he was unwavered, he was undisturbed, and he could see that his father and his subordinates that are trying to kill him, they are just acting. What's the active principles of 3 modes of material nature? And because he knows that the 3 modes of material nature are controlled by his master, he was undisturbed and he did not waver. He remained neutral and transcendental. Just like a yogi who was never captured. So the tridents couldn't strike his body. He was not fearful in the least. So this is the amazing thing, is that yes, he didn't die because of all these attempts on his life, but also his internal state. He was actually not fearful of what was being done to him, because he knew that the modes alone are active. He was always situated in the self. So being situated in the self is, in the heart, there's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then there's you, the Spirit Soul. And so he always felt the presence of his Lord. And so even though he was in an extremely distressful situation, he was always situated there. Then before he was being abused in this great way, he was preaching Krishna consciousness. So he was preaching Krishna consciousness to his father, even though his father was presenting such a great threat. He didn't fear that, oh, I know my Vishnu to be the stated enemy of my father and uncle. My uncle was killed by my master Vishnu. And so he wasn't fearful of actually preaching directly, speaking truth to power, the absolute truth to the ultimate power at this point, which was his father, who was the emperor of the entire universe. Yeah. He was always situated in the self, that I'm part and parcel of the super self, which is Krishna, and Krishna is your master, and you should actually glorify him. He was equal. Yeah, he who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, a piece of gold with an equal eye. So Prahlad Maharaj was basically born with a silver spoon, to say the least. He wasn't attracted to all the opulence. His father had conquered all the three worlds. And so he was actually the heir to the throne. Yeah, he was the heir to the throne. And so he didn't see that, well, if I start speaking unfavorably towards my father, then I will jeopardize me becoming inheriting the kingdom. Just like in the Ramayana, Rama lost the throne because of the intrigue of the mother of his brother Bharat. Can't really say it's an aunt, a co-wife aunt. I just don't know the technical term. But yeah, he didn't think about that like that. That okay, well, through political intrigue, the same thing might happen to me as it happened with Rama, because Narada Muni had instructed him devotional service. Naturally, Prahlad Maharaj knew all the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, including we can conjecture, but he probably also knew the Ramayana, what actually happened to Rama. And it's just part of palace life, royal life, is that there is political intrigue, and so you need to always protect your inheritance. But Prahlad Maharaj wasn't thinking that way. He saw that this is just all the property of the Supreme Lord. So he could see it with an equal eye. He was equal toward the desirable and undesirable. As I said, yeah, he's equal both to his devotees of the Lord, but he didn't have much association. But he was equal to his friends. So his friends, he gave them the best gift, the matchless gift, and that is Krishna consciousness. They became devotees, and yeah, he treated them the same as friends. He was steady, situated equally well in praise, blame, honor, and dishonor. And he had renounced all material activities. So this is Prahlad Maharaj in a nutshell. Okay. Krishna continues, text 26, 14th chapter. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is a constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So the devotee who has transcended the three modes of material nature, because he is always situated in the self, he's always situated in Brahman, and he doesn't delight in happiness, in sources of happiness that have a beginning and an end, but rather he just delights in a happiness that's emanating from the level of Brahman, which does not have a beginning, it does not have an end. And therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, he could always exhibit symptoms of ecstasy. And we were reading in this chapter how he would dance, how he would sometimes cry, how he would enact the pastimes of the Lord. So this is like us as sadhakas trying to follow in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, is that despite the external political situation, we continue to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, associate with the devotees. Despite changes even in our financial situation, changes even within the society of the devotees as well, interpersonal friction may be there. Still, we can always delight in chanting the holy name with the devotees, chanting it to ourselves through japa, and just hearing, always nitam, always hearing and delighting in the pastimes of the Lord. And you can even try as well when you're alone. You can, or you have someone in the house, an audience, you can try to actually enact the pastimes, just snippets, do a cameo of the pastimes of the Lord. And in this way, you'll always be on the level of Brahman. So Krishna continues, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there's an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna is basically continuing answering the question how you actually become liberated from the three modes of material nature. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has its roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends or where it begins, where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down the strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So basically, Shanda and Amarka are trying to rebuild this tree in the mind and heart of Prahlad Maharaj. This is this tree of material existence. This tree is further explained by the demigods when they praying to Krishna in the womb, while Krishna is in the womb of Mother Devaki, and they're praying to Krishna the actual in more detail. So Krishna is given a summary here, but they actually explain in detail. This tree of material existence, basically when you are indoctrinating children who, like Prahlad Maharaj, has transcended the three modes of material nature, you're basically, you're, as I said, rebuilding this tree. And so the demigods then explain how Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha actually exist on this tree of material existence. So this is then, it's cited also in the Katha Upanishad. So the Kathopanishad also cites this example of the tree of the material manifestation standing on the ground of material nature. So the way to remember this tree is you count from 1 through 10. We're going to associate something. Each number corresponds to an item on the tree. Okay. So number 1 is the ground. So 1, the ground. 2, this tree has 2 kinds of fruits, distress and happiness. Okay, so number 2 is that it's distress and happiness. 3, those who are living in the tree of the body are just like still 2. Those who are living in the tree of the body are just like 2 birds. One bird is a localized aspect of Krishna known as the Paramatma, and the other body is the other bird is a living entity. Okay. The living entity is eating the fruits of this material manifestation. Sometimes he eats the fruits of happiness, and sometimes he eats the fruit of distress. But the other bird is not interested in eating the fruit of distress or happiness because he is self-satisfied. The Kathopanishad states that one bird on the tree of the body is eating the fruits, and the other bird is simply witnessing. Okay. So 2 is quite a lot happening, right? So there's 2 kinds of fruits, and then there's 2 birds, right? So one bird is you, and the other bird is the super soul. And so the little bird, which is me, is eating happiness and distress. And then the big bird, which is the super self or the super soul, is just simply witnessing. So that's 2. Okay. So now we go to 3. The roots of this tree extend in 3 directions. This means that the root of the tree is the 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Okay. 3. Tree Gunamayi. That's how to remember it. Just as now we go to 4. Just as, sorry, I think we're still on 3. Just as a tree's root expands, so by association of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. Yes. So Kapila Dev explains this, how the body develops, around the spirit soul. And so we can understand that the root of the entire creation, the Jagat, the universe, is these 3 modes of material nature. And he explains when they mix with the time element of the Lord, they basically come from the Mahatattva, well, from the Pradhan, then the Mahatattva, and then the false ego, a 3-fold false ego gets generated in goodness, passion, and ignorance, etc. And it just unfolds. So that's 3. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now we go to 4. The tastes of the fruits are 4 kinds: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation. So I'm eating happiness and distress, right? 2 kinds of fruits. And then it comes in 4 flavors, those 2 categories of fruits. I can eat happy religion or distressful religion, happy economic development or distressful economic development, happy sense gratification or distressful happy sense gratification. Ultimately, we know sense gratification is distressful, but at least for some time. If you have happiness in the mode of goodness, generally, just like what they have in the heavenly planets, it goes on for a long time. Or I could have this liberation, moksha, right? So 4 kinds of fruits, or 4 flavors of these fruits. Okay. According to the different associations and 3 modes of material nature, the living entities are tasting different kinds of religiosity, different kinds of economic development, different kinds of sense gratification, and different kinds of liberation. Right? Krishna explains this he explains this different kinds of sacrifice, penance, and austerity, and in the 18th chapter. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance, but because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered with goodness or passion. The taste of these material fruits is accepted. Okay, so that's four. Artha, karma, moksha, dharma, artha, karma, and moksha. And so basically, Shanda and Amarka are trying to say to Prahlad Maharaj, establish the incentive of you, Prahlad Maharaj, regrowing this tree in your heart of material existence is with these fruits. So they feel that by exposure to this, that Prahlad Maharaj will become enticed. But again, he is tasting happiness on the level of Brahman, and so he really doesn't have, he won't be attracted. Just as Prabhupada cites that one who has achieved the abode of Krishna never comes back. Similarly, the taste doesn't come back when you are on the level of Brahman. Number 5, the taste of these material fruits is accepted through 5 senses. 5 sense organs through which knowledge is acquired are subjected to 6 whips. So 5 is your knowledge acquiring senses, and then 6 is the states of consciousness that, or the whips that you'll be subjected to. And that is lamentation, illusion, infirmity. Infirmity is invalidity, like just really dwindling. Death, hunger, and thirst. Okay. Number 7. This material body of the material manifestation is covered by 7 layers: skin, muscle, blood, marrow, bone, fat, and semen. Okay, now we go to 8. The branches of the tree are 8: earth, fire, water, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. 9. Okay, there are 9 gates in this body: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 genital, 1 rectum. And 10, there are 10 kinds of internal air passing within the body: prana, apana, udana, vyana, samana, etc. So this is the tree of material existence, and Prahlad Maharaj was completely free from this. But you can see the mystic, just how intricate it is, and therefore actually to become free from the 3 modes of material nature is no small feat. You basically uproot this entire tree. And if you do it through the yogic process, by controlling the 10 life airs, it takes many thousands of years. This tree is very strongly rooted. Yeah. Okay. So Krishna, or Prabhupada, he explains in the purport. Let's see. So you can read in the purport of chapter 15 about the weapon of detachment, and Prabhupada explains it. So we are always trying to cultivate, to the true track. So bhakti flows. Bhakti is independent. However, if you want it to flow very nicely, especially on the regulated platform, it's cultivation of jnana and vairagya, right? So before it becomes on the level of raga, spontaneous, just like the residents of Vrindavan. While you are still on the sadhaka platform, you want to cultivate 2 things: knowledge and vairagya. And the vairagya is going to, or detachment is going to uproot, basically make you free from these 3 modes of material nature. And the knowledge is going to situate you in Brahman. You have to know and be reminded of daily Sri Bhagavan, the possessor of all opulence, so that You can always be attracted and delight in his pastimes, delight in his speech, just as we are delighting in this very holy, old, imperishable dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. So this is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj became free from the three modes of material nature. He became free from this tree of material existence that is really strongly rooted through Shravanam Kirtanam. So he was always hearing and then he was chanting. And he got full instruction from his spiritual master through the womb. So this Shravanam Kirtanam, it pierces all layers. No matter how, and the covering of the living entity when they're in the womb, it's very thick. However, the Shravanam Kirtanam is so powerful that it can penetrate all these layers. So even if your senses material senses are deficient, your success in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha really depends on the quality of your senses and your how much knowledge you can assimilate, how much you can recite. It all, whether you're old or whether you're young, it's all dependent on this body, the condition of this body. However, we see with devotional service in the Shravanam Kirtanam is that the happiness derived from Brahman is not dependent on that. It's not dependent on the state of the body, but rather just that you're exposed repeatedly to the Shravanam Kirtanam. So today, on this day of, I think it's Pushpa Abhishek, Sri Krishna Pushpa Abhishek, where Krishna is decorated with flowers. And we should pray to Radha Damodar to really construct a very strong weapon of detachment and really cut down this tree of material existence, which has four kinds of fruits: the Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, and to lean on Krishna, to depend on Krishna, take full shelter of Krishna, and not be indoctrinated by daily living in this material world, which basically creates this reinforcement that yes, our self-interest actually lies in the cultivation of Dharma, Artha, Karma, and Moksha. No, where our real self-interest lies in is in always remembering Krishna, offering our homage unto him, glorifying him, and offering our obeisances to him. And in this way, we will always remember Krishna. We will achieve the transcendental position, transcendental position of becoming free from the three modes of material nature. And in this way, we will taste the happiness on the level of Brahman, happiness of associating with Krishna, for that happiness has no beginning and no end. Hare Krishna. Are there any reflections, contentions, or additions?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you for a great class. Always fun. I enjoy your classes. I've said it before, but I can't escape. I listen to your classes. I'm laying here with a smile on my face, just watching the movements of your mind as you dive deeply into the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it just it gives me so much pleasure. Just hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is wonderful, but when I see you speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, it just seems so perfect that you have this technical, analytical mind, and the ocean of the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam just seems like the perfect environment for you to unleash all of your propensities, that you can just dive deep and swim around to your heart's content, absorbing the philosophy and digesting it in all different ways. You find all of the correlations, and then you can speak on them, and it just seems so wonderful and perfect fit, perfect marriage of big brain and big philosophy, and it's just delightful to see. I Yeah, you should never give up this service of giving classes, and especially reading Srila Prabhupada's books. I think for you there is probably no better engagement. I would imagine that if you did not absorb your mind in the um, philosophy as Srila Prabhupada presents it in his books, you would probably be disturbed and agitated and unfulfilled. But when you take these deep dives, I think it must be very satisfying. In my mind's eye, I envision some sort of aquatic that is a very expert swimmer. I think of something like I don't know if you've ever seen videos of sea lions swimming when they're playing or chasing a fish. They're incredibly expert, very what's the word I'm looking for? They dart this way and that way with such expertise. The way they maneuver is extraordinary. They move very fast, and they can turn on a dime. It's just amazing. I get the same feeling when I, when I hear you speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam. Just you're diving deep into the philosophy and just swimming around, finding all these different correlations, and just swimming from one to the next. Um, it just, I don't know, it gives my heart joy to watch that. Hey, I'll tell you something that you may not realize. Completely different vein of thought here now, but something else that I was thinking about while you were speaking. And it's just my own personal observation of something that I experienced. In 1975, 1975 was probably the beginning of the regular practice of ISKCON devotees coming together in Mayapur for the Gaur Purnim festival. It was in 75 that the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan was officially opened. So lots of devotees were present for that, and so the festival began in Mayapur and then moved to Vrindavan, um, where then there was another big festival for the opening of the temple, and that became the routine in the years that followed. The festival would begin in Mayapur.
We've lost you, Prabhu.
Oh, how about now? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, so every year the devotees would gather in Mayapur, and then they would all travel to Vrindavan, mostly by train, and then the festivities would resume in Vrindavan. But so in 1975, this was when this practice began. It was Srila Prabhupada's desire that the devotees travel to India, to the Holy Dhams annually. And this was probably the first really big gathering of ISKCON devotees. In that year, in Mayapur, Srila Prabhupada, he would give classes every morning for all the devotees, and it was a special opportunity for him because all of his senior-most disciples would be there. All of the big book distributors were there. All of the GBC, all the temple presidents, a lot of devotees, and pretty much all the most important devotees were all present. So it was an opportunity for Srila Prabhupada to address all of them at once. So it's interesting to note what he chose to speak on. In 1975, he spoke from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the first canto of Adi Lila. Basically, he just kind of began from the beginning. But in the following year, 1976,
We lost you again, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, how about now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, so 1976, Srila Prabhupada chose to speak from Srimad Bhagavatam. He began in January, prior to the festival, because he was there. Not every year he was there for any period of time, but he present at least for the festival. In 76, he was there prior to the festival, and he began speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 6. First text of chapter 6. So right in the middle of the story of Prahlad Maharaj. And so he spoke a great deal, about the entire story, the character of Prahlad Maharaj, the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev, all of the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. He continued speaking. He went through chapter 6 and timed his speaking so that at the height of the festival, or with the beginning of the Gaur Purnim festival, he was speaking from chapter 9. And so a lot of very important instructions come out. But one of the things that occurred to me, because I was there and had the opportunity to be close to Srila Prabhupada, and my impression was that he regarded his disciples as having a lot in common with Prahlad Maharaj. They were all young children. His disciples were just kids. We were young children, very young, in our teens, most of us. Not even, some were in our 20s, early 20s, and in our teens, very young. So in any case, he thought that these chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam were so important that in the following year, 77, he spoke from the same chapter again. He covered the same material twice, 2 years in a row, before the bulk of all of his important disciples. So, interesting to note, something to keep in mind when we study these chapters on Prahlad Maharaj, that Srila Prabhupada thought this was very important for us. So we can try to look for what in particular it is that Srila Prabhupada thought was very important for us. There's, obviously so much very, very valuable instruction, but there's important and valuable instruction throughout all of Srimad Bhagavatam. For some reason, 2 years consecutively, he chose to focus on 7th canto, the story of Prahlad Maharaj and the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. Anyway, thank you again for your very nice class. Always interesting to hear. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for your encouragement. Actually, you're right. If I don't study Prabhupada's books daily, I do become unhappy. So thank you for your highlighting that, and I've also observed it in me. And yeah, it's one of my New Year's resolutions is just to go back regularly studying and not be too absorbed in Dharma. In Arta, Arta takes quite a bit of time, especially off the farm. So I'm like, yeah, I need to actually strengthen this weapon of detachment through regular study. So thank you, Prabhu. And yeah, thank you for highlighting the importance of hearing this narration of Prahlad Maharaj. You did pose a rhetorical question in one sense, like why this is important, but we can see how Prahlad Maharaj's circumstances, we're in similar circumstances, and yeah, we're in a demoniac society, but Prahlad Maharaj was unwavering. Prabhupada's generals, they were fighting directly against demoniac administrators. And Prahlad Maharaj just kept speaking truth to power, and he was fearless. So I would say Prabhupada he narrated the history of Prahlad Maharaj repeatedly, as you cited, because we can really draw strength, just as we can draw strength from reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita daily. So even similarly, this narration of Prahlad Maharaj, if we study it even once a week, we can draw strength from it. So thank you, Prabhu. Any other contributions?
I have a question.
We will.
All right, well, thanks for your class. Like yesterday, Prabhu said, it was like we went through the whole Bhagavad Gita. So in the beginning, when you were talking about like systematic, how Sana and Amarka wanted to systematically imbue Prahlad Maharaj with the three modes of material nature, I was thinking about, how in today's day and age, not only the education system, but just like phones, social media, these things are very systematically used by demoniac influences to imbue the three modes of material nature in us. And as devotees, we don't want to take the asat sangha, but oftentimes phone or internet things can lead to that. But then on the other hand, whenever we do some devotional service, like I've been noticing going out doing book distribution or some kind of outreach with devotees, immediately, you could be very disturbed in mind from a satsanga or just, having an argument with a devotee or having a bad day or whatever. So I was wondering if from Bhagavad Gita or something else, you can explain how it is that devotional service just seemingly automatically lifts us, or even within, an hour or two, just lifts us right to a whole other plane of existence above those, like the systematic influence of the three modes of material nature.
I think the answer is in one of the verses we read. Let's see. Okay, just a moment. Okay. So mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samiti tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So your question relates to that based on your experience is that at once you transcend the modes of material nature, despite friction in the world of the three modes. Am I interpreting your your question correctly?
Yes, and I'm saying
Right.
at once could even be, even an hour or two, but still,
Right.
I'd consider that at once.
At once, yeah. Okay, so this is what Krishna says. And yeah, so you can do it through the weapon of detachment, but with devotional service, as you described in your personal experience, and many devotees on this call have experienced, is that it happens at once, right? So what does Prabhupada say? This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, actually, this is the purport I wanted to read, but we ran out of time. So thank you for your question. As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions, such as Rama and Narayan. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendently situated. One should also note that all forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent, omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of a gold mine. Thus, the living entity in his spiritual position is as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of individuality continues, otherwise, there would be no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the individual person, otherwise there would be no meaning of Bhakti Yoga. If one is situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahmin or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, Prameva san pramapeti. One can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul. So in this, Prabhupada, it seems like he is not explaining it, but in the visual, he's actually explaining it, right? So for example, two people who are into each other's bodies. They're very much attracted to each other physically. Um, According to their experience, when they're absorbed in each other's bodies, nothing else exists, right? They just absorbed in each other's bodies. Similarly, here, what Prabhupada is describing is that if you actually just absorbed in Krishna's body, his activities, his qualities, you experience it. just as you experience it, that absorption, the living entity has a tendency to get absorbed, right? So if you actually are absorbed in Krishna's bodies, his qualities, his pastimes, it's just a self-evident experience that you've actually are no longer, it's like an out of body experience. Like your body is in a certain environment, but your consciousness, your heart, it's just somewhere else. Yeah. So, in the same way, the example you cited, distributing books, uh, now when you're actually giving out the book, you're actually stopping people, talking to them, telling them about how Bhagavad Gita will actually help them. Um, you are engaged in a service that previous acharyas are engaged, right? So, and Gurudev comes, to town, we can see, that yeah, Gurudev is just completely transcendental, So even though he is 75, his body is 75, but he's just speaking about Krishna. He is speaking in such a enlivening way, as though he was just so young, as though he was just still in the body of a youthful 40-year-old, you know. Uh, so we can see it, right? Um, so now when you're engaged in the service of acharyas, teachers who teach by their own personal example, and we can see it that they are also transcendental. It's not like words on in a book. We can actually see it for ourselves. In the same way, you become like them because now you're absorbed in their service. Um, so many devotees, when they serve another devotee, they experience that. Oh, I was tired. I wasn't, feeling like doing the service, but because you're like, no, I'm gonna do it out of duty or some other reason, you just follow through on the service. You actually transcend uh, the three modes. We experience it all the time in devotional service. So this is something that you can explain like analytically, but it's really the only explanation, or at least satisfying explanation, is the experience. You actually need to get it. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but I feel like Prabhupada has given it in this purport that we can, just as we can be absorbed in material nature and transcend, or at least escape for the time being, our current circumstances, in the same way, we also can be absorbed in Krishna and also uh, at once transcend the three modes that were disturbing us. Is that a good enough explanation, or you want more analysis?
Oh, it was great. I have a follow-up to it, but I want to see if anybody else wants to speak or say something.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, your follow-up.
Okay. It looked like Mother Jambavati unmuted, but I didn't hear anything. Anyway, so I don't know what you said in your answer that made me think of this something in the beginning, but basically one wants to one is feeling the pangs of the three modes of material nature, and then going back to the whole thing with like I guess a phone or anything that would be quote unquote legal sense gratification for devotees, not breaking the regular principles or anything, but that one can gravitate towards quick fixes versus devotional service. Like at that point when you're feeling the pangs of the modes, then like you have a choice basically. Okay, well, do I do the ultimate thing, which would be to go for devotional service to rise above the modes? But then there's like Maya that is basically saying at all times, oh, but if you want relief, you should actually do XYZ, which is like get some other form of absorption, which can be, I mean, many different things depending on if it's a mode of goodness, mode of passion, or many of us have been conditioned, especially from probably the 90s onward, if you're born, be conditioned to seek that relief in some form of internet or technology. So I was just wondering if you can also like maybe compare those two or the results or just how to overcome that influence or use the independence properly. Any one of those questions. You're muted. I think it's frozen, or it looks like you're still muted. At least I can't hear you.
Sorry, I disconnected. Are you asking, Haribo, are you asking, did I get your question right?
I didn't hear it. It looked like it was muted on my end. It
Okay.
looked like you were muted.
Okay, so is your question around basically how do we transcend Maya's influence from convincing us when we have a choice to engage in devotional service and transcend the three modes, or engage in her and get temporary, have a temporary escape from the three modes?
Exactly. And things that are, like I said, quote unquote, legal for devotees. And then especially if you're, changing ashrams, then it's like, okay, you have to exercise your minute independence more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's due to an undeveloped taste, and also that, sadhakas, so there's different ways to combat this. One is, okay, have I done all that I'm supposed to do? Okay, so I know that I have. There's a basic of chanting my rounds and then engaging in some service. Okay, so let me reflect. Okay, so I've checked that. Okay, so now then I look at, okay, in my interactions with Gurudev, am I doing what he said I should do? So maybe Gurudev has instructed, yes, we should always keep Krishna's service in the center and keep the holy name in the center. Okay, so you might check, I've kept Krishna's holy name in the center, and I've tried to engage in some service during the day, but this, I just want to watch YouTube, or I just want to do this, or I just want to do that. So then you can see, okay, this activity is going to deviate me, right? So then you can basically, you need more knowledge, you need a reminder. Okay, so if we turn to Bhagavad Gita, we can turn to a verse like this: Yehi samsparsha jaboga dukha yonaya evate adyanta vanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So, to delight in the temporary escape that legal, as you put it, legal forms of sense gratification give is Maya, because that delight is going to come to an end, and basically you've just reinforced a pre-existing attachment. So what does Prabhupada say about this? Delighting in pleasures that have a beginning and an end. Okay. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary, knowing all the joys of transcendental pleasures. Okay. So this is the point, is that you need to thoroughly know the joys of transcendental pleasures. So we know that Maya has a covering potency, and that covering potency is through daily forgetfulness. So, if you have like a recording where you were there, there's nothing like, it's one thing to listen to a recording, but it's another to listen to a recording when you were there. It's more palpable because you can remember how it was like. Recording of a kirtan, recording of a class, you can very well remember. So, you can reflect back on how it was so nice to be in the association of devotees and you were actually there. So your memory will actually be reminded. That's a good way. Also, yeah, just having in-person association with devotees. In person is very important because they really remind you. Yeah, they really remind you of that. And how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? So this is what Prabhupada explains in the purport. So you can read it, it's 522, and really try to assimilate this. This applies to all of us, is if we've experienced liberation from the three modes, even though it was short-lived, but we've all had this experience, why is it that we still delight in pleasures that have a beginning and an end? You need to really understand the road pathways in your brain, and through yoga, we try to refine them. I hope that answers your question. Mother Jambavati?
Thank you. That was fantastic.
Okay. You're welcome. Mother Jambavati? We can't hear you. Your hand is up. Okay, Mother Jamba. I guess we'll have to get your nugget of wisdom from you in person sometime. Okay, so we'll end with this. Ramante yogi no nante satyanande ched atmani iti rama pade naso param brahma vidhiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth. Therefore, the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Raman. So yes, today let us pray to Radha Damodar to help us be inspired to follow Prahlad Maharaj's example of always delighting in the pleasure of Rama, always delighting in the pastimes of Sri Krishna, delighting in the pleasures of talking about Krishna with one another, and sharing this pleasure of Krishna with others. Yes, let us see this as a source of pleasure that has no beginning and no end, and in this way, the short-lived, I guess, periodic liberation that we feel from the three modes of material nature, it can be sustained for longer periods of time. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gora Pramanande. Hare Bol.